Welcome to Planet Geography. Today we're going to tackle earthquakes and how they form. It's a geographical physical process, so our key vocabulary is going to be so important. And think of it in steps. Generally, it tends to be actually quite easy, the actual workings of an earthquake. So here we have our settlement. There's absolutely nothing special about it, apart from one thing. This settlement is on a tectonic plate boundary. So we have tectonic plate 1, and we have tectonic plate 2. So here is our boundary between the two. The second thing that's a problem for this settlement is there are 3 types of tectonic plate boundary: convergent, divergent, and when they move side by side, conservative. Now, unlucky for them, this is a convergent plate boundary, so the 2 plates are moving in opposite directions. The characteristics of these earthquakes are very powerful and infrequent, meaning they don't happen very often, but when they do, it's a problem. Okay? So, what happens? We know our tectonic plates are moving because of convection currents. In this case, they are moving in different directions. So we have a thing called stress accumulation. So stress starts to build up, accumulation needs to build up. And as we see, as the stress builds, there's more and more tension, and eventually that stored energy is going to be released. So here's our tectonic plate boundary. On it are fault lines. We see here fault lines. Now, it will be along one of these fault lines, essentially a weakness in the rock, where that stored energy will be released. Okay? That point, that weakness, which we almost think of like as the heart of the volcano, is called the focus. Okay? It's basically where the earthquake starts from, the focus. And when it starts, that energy is released in the form of seismic waves. It's released in all directions. Okay? If you want to know, there's 2 different types of seismic waves: P waves, primary waves, and S waves, secondary waves. But for your GCSEs, you just need to know seismic waves. So, it travels out in all directions. Directly above the focus is the epicenter. The epicenter is where on the surface of the Earth we feel those seismic waves most strongly. Okay? As the seismic waves travel, they become weaker and weaker and weaker. And it's why if you live in England, you've never really felt an earthquake, because by the time it's reached you, that energy has dissipated. So, as we travel from A to B, we're going to feel the effects, the seismic waves, much less acutely, much less strongly. So, in this earthquake, house A destroyed, house B fine. Okay? So when we're thinking about destruction, the further from the epicenter, the less destruction we see. Another factor that can affect how destructive an earthquake is the depth of the focus. If the focus is shallow, meaning close to the surface, big problem. Because we're obviously going to feel that energy much more acutely, much more powerfully. Where the deeper the focus, if it was deeper, much better. Because whilst we would feel it, there's more rock to absorb that energy, and there would be less destruction taking place. Okay? And that's pretty much it. So yeah, just remembering your keywords. The things you definitely need are tectonic plate boundary, tectonic plates, convergent, divergent, conservative. We have fault lines, which are the weaknesses in the rock that come off of the plate boundary. The focus is a really important terminology because it's where the earthquake actually starts. The seismic energy is released from, that accumulated energy is released from. And epicenter is very, very important, okay? We are going to now look at an exam question and how we would turn this diagram into an exam question. So yeah, hang around if you're interested. Okay guys, so let's look at an exam question from Edexcel B 2020. Again, if you're doing AQA or Edexcel A, it should still be very relevant, as really we're looking at causes of destruction and earthquakes. So again, pause the question. If you've seen previous videos, bug this by yourself. Otherwise, I will show you how I do it in a second. So bug, box the command word, underline the keywords, and glance at the mark. So let's do that now. Explain, reason, earthquakes, destructive. Yep, once we've underlined it, the question becomes a lot more simple. Causes, earthquakes, destructive. Then we glance at the marks, and we see it's 3 marks, which then means point, because, as a result. So our point that is developed a further 2 times to pick up those second 2 marks. So there's lots that you can write about. So again, I'd pause this and I would have a little look at things that can get you marks. But we're going to kind of focus on the structure of an earthquake and what actually happens as the most one. So we're going to zoom in on 2 boxes. So the things we have here are shallow focus and distance from the epicenter. So considering the video that we've just made, those are 2 points that we can see very clearly are going to have an impact on how destructive these earthquakes are. So yeah, let's do that. We're going to actually look at shallow focus, but epicenter would equally be a really good choice if I was in the exam. So here's our connectives. This is going to be one reason, so use the words from the question if you can. Point goes in here, because, and as a result, it's going to be a mark for the point, and then a mark each for the development. So you can literally see it's almost been written for us in the exam question. So one reason is a shallow focus, because this means the more seismic energy reaches the surface in large quantities, as a result causing widespread destruction. So this last point, I'm picking it up, is literally just repeating the question, linking it back to the question. So that's something that you can do to get 100%, is you can link back to the question to pick up that final mark. But again, you see how it's very, very simple. As long as your structure is there, and as long as your use of key language is there, shallow focus, seismic energy, destruction, you're picking up those 3 marks very, very quickly and very, very easily. 3 marks, 2 questions. If you found the video useful, like and subscribe, and I'll be posting more and more content as we go.